This is an Eminence DV-77 and I want to find out if it lives up to its reputation. So I finally got an Eminence DV-77 and this speaker came out I think maybe 2-3 years ago. I'm not entirely sure about that. The last 4 years are a bit of a blur to me, but I do know it came out pretty much in the middle of the pandemic, right when supply chains were stressed the hell out anyway, and at the time it was all the rage. But as I mentioned, supply chains were stressed, and as a result of that, it wasn't really available, at least in Europe. They were very hard to find and also very expensive. Anyway, people were claiming this was a bit of a vintage 30 killer, or the new kid on the block anyway. Fast forward a few years and the hype has died down a little bit, but not entirely. People still speak very highly of these speakers, and a lot of people have asked me for my take on this speaker. And I'm happy to find out if the speaker lives up to the reputation. Is it great or was it all hype? And to do that, I'm going to put it in this Marshall 1960 AV cab behind me here, next to a Celestion Vintage 30 from the year 2000, one of my favorite Vintage 30s. I'm going to mic both of them up with Shure SM57s, the Vintage 30 in its sweet spot right where the dust cap meets the cone, and the DV-77, well, we'll see about that. First of all, I'm going to try to find its sweet spot, and I'm going to play a few riffs on an amp and switch back and forth during the video so we can hear how they compare. If the sweet spot for the DV-77 is a different relative position than it is for the Vintage 30, I will move the microphone to that same relative position later in the video and switch back and forth again. The idea behind that is that way we get to hear the DV-77 from its best side, at least according to my ears, and then later we can also make an apples to apples comparison, just so you know how the tonal qualities of the DV-77 are compared to the Vintage 30. And as always, I'm going to provide you with some IR so you can do your own shootout at home and find out if the DV-77 is for you. So you'll either be getting 2 or 3 IRs depending on where the sweet spot on the DV-77 ends up being. As a little bonus in this video, I'm going to compare the DV-77 to the Hesu Demon as well, because the idea of having a divinity and a demon in the same cab is hilarious to me. And for the very same reason, I'm going to compare the DV-77 to the Lichtlaerm Audio LCFR 150 later as well, as people have been asking for that. You still with me? Cool. Let's get into it. Alright, I'm all set up, and even though the DV-77 sounds quite different than the Vintage 30, to my ears at least the sweet spot is in the same position, so this part of the shootout will only feature one mic position, and that means you'll only be getting one DV-77 IR for free in the description below. But I've got some news on that front, so stick around to the end, or skip to the end to find out. I'll be using my Lichtlaerm Audio Prometheus for this because I have one and I want to use it. And you might be wondering why it's stored on this box in this quite precarious setup right here, and that is because the Prometheus head shell is a slight bit wider than the EVH I usually use, so these gravity stands wouldn't really fit, so I've put it on top of this box. Sometimes modern problems require extraordinarily flimsy solutions. So can the DV-77 hang with the Vintage 30? Is the hype real? Will my Prometheus survive this video, and will I cry all night if it falls down? I most definitely will, and even longer than that. So stick around to find out. Let's go. Right, one t-shirt and one speaker change later, and I've got the Lichlaerm Audio LCFR 150 in here, or Lucifer 150, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that you say Lichtlaerm Audio. Anyway, it's in here now, and I forget if I mentioned it in the intro. For these parts, shooting it out to the LCFR 150 and the Hesu Demon, I'm not going to go with reference spots, I'm just going to go with the sweet spots, at least to my ears. So the LCFR 150 is mic'd almost dead center, while the DV-77 on this side is mic'd where the dust cap meets the cone. Yeah, let's check it out. I'm still working that out. I suck. Anyway, I think that should do for the LCFR 150. Let's move on to the Hesu Demon. Yeah, I need to get my drum. Hold on. Right guys, final round. I've got the Hesu Demon in this side of the cab now, and if I remember correctly, the sweet spot on that was about a finger's width further outside from the center. Don't tell the other engineers I used a finger's width as metric for measuring distance here. It's about 7 to 8 millimeters. They'll make fun of me. They will. Absolutely. So shh. So, do I think the DV-77 is overrated? Was it all just hype? No, not in the slightest. I think it's a fantastic sounding speaker. I think Mike Smith of Omega Ampworks and the ladies and gentlemen of Eminence Guitar Speakers did a fabulous job. I can really see and hear why it made such an impact. And to my ears it shares some traits with the golden age vintage 30s, you know, the ones from the year 2000 to 2003. The way the sound pressure level drops out at around 5 kilohertz is very similar to that. If you're familiar with my channel and my work, then you've heard the 5 to 6 kilohertz thing ad nauseum by now. If you're new here, it turns out that the vintage 30s made between the years 2000 and roughly 2003 were a bit smoother in the presence. The roll off at 5 kilohertz was a bit sooner. The later vintage 30s generated more sound pressure level between 5 and 6 kilohertz. And in the graphs from this test, the vintage 30 from the year 2000 that I have in this cab and the DV-77, they behaved very similarly. So yeah, I get it. If you have the means, download the IRs using the link in the description below and test them out at home. Which brings me to my next point. I've started a Patreon in which I will force feed you with many IRs if you choose to join. Ever since I made my big vintage 30 video a year ago, I've been getting the question now and then if people can support me in some way, and my answer for the longest time was nah. But the question kept coming, so I started a PayPal address and I posted that, and some of you guys donated, which I greatly appreciate. But I always had a bit of a moral dilemma with that, because you guys weren't getting anything extra in return, and call me cynical, but I believe there's no such thing as a free lunch. It just doesn't feel right, and that's where Patreon comes in. I've taken some of my favorite microphones, some dynamics, some vintage Shures, some ribbons and condensers, and made impulse responses of the vintage 30 and the DV-77 in this cab, and you'll be able to download them using my Patreon. I will, over the next weeks and months, upload some more IRs made with the speakers I've demoed on this channel so far, so the Fane Mamsers, the Warehouse guitar speakers, the Governor, and whatnot. And I will continue to do this for speakers I demo on this channel in future. The only exception might be if a person or a company provided me with a speaker and they don't approve of me making IRs. But so far I've only been supplied with one speaker, and that was the Lichtlaerm Audio LCFR 150. And Daniel at Lichlaerm not only approves of me making IRs, he actually encouraged me to do so. So thanks Daniel, and lucky for us. Now this IR pack is rather large, and future IR packs might not be as big and mics may vary a bit, but I wanted to go all out this time, and I tested it a bit with my friends. I sent this pack to my friends in advance to give me some feedback, and I'm pretty confident if you ask them they'll tell you John Brown is very fucking annoying, but the IRs are good. So yeah, I wanted to start with a bang. I also may upload some exclusive Tonix captures and whatever else I can think of along the way. Don't worry, I'll continue to do the 2 to 3 free IRs with every speaker I demo. I just think that it's a good idea, and that's not going to change. Nothing's going to change for the regular viewers. I just thought I'd like to offer something extra for people who'd like to support me. The next speaker I'm going to check out on the channel is likely going to be the Fane F70, so stick around if you want to see that. If you liked this video, if it was informative or entertaining to you in any way, I'd appreciate it if you could leave a like and tell me in the comments what you thought of the DV-77. That's all I've got for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye! There's a huge moth flying around this room.